Hello, this is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Today we're going to show you how to repair this wobbly dining room chair. Even the stretchers on the bottoms are broken. They got some rope holding it together, so it's going to be quite intensive repair. There's a lot to get done. We're going to go quick. First thing we got to do is get the seat off. They're usually just held on by a few screws on the bottom. Every now and then the seats are upholstered on. If they are, it's a lot more difficult, but 80% of them are slip seats like this. Just take the screws off, the seat pops right out. After that, what we have to do is work with these corner brackets. Now, right here, you can see I put markings on mine. And then this tool I made, this is just a pair of wire cutters. And you can see it's pointy on one end and I actually ground it so I could slip it underneath the staples. And I made it dull. I made it the opposite of what it's supposed to be. But it works very good for things like this. These are little staples that are in that they shot in at the factory. And I need to pull them out in order to get these corner brackets in. Now, these corner brackets are finger joints, and they're glued into the factory, and they do very well. They hold together for a good long time. But once they get loose, sometimes they break, sometimes they're a pain in the neck to deal with. Sometimes they're stuck on one side, not the other. So I developed this special technique. I whack it with a hammer. When I whack it with the hammer, that tends to break the glue joint. Once the glue joint's broken and the staples are pulled, and you don't even need to get all the staples out. Sometimes just a few of them out or none of them out. And I'm going to take a pry bar and I'm going to pry it a little bit. You're going to see it comes right up. And I'm prying in an area where it's not going to mar or damage the chair. You can see the chair is very wobbly. A lot of times I'll rock them back and forth quite a bit. I'll worry the chair to try to loosen up all the joints. And that's what I did here. Now, I'm going to take this clamp. This is not an expensive clamp. It's an inexpensive one. And I'm going to reverse it around to turn it into a spreader. So it all depends on how much money you have. We need 40, 50 clamps in my shop. So we buy inexpensive clamps for most of the work, and then we have a few really good ones. Um, so you put this part on the other side, and now you've got a wonderful tool for stretching things or lifting things. Just pop it right in here, couple squeezes, and you can see on the upper right, it's going to just start separating that chair right apart. Couple taps with this big old paw I got right there, and then I'm just going to work that part right loose there and pop it off. Now the other side, I'm going to see how it pulls out, but it's very easy to snap the dowels, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to use this flat bar and pry on it a little bit and then wiggle it a little bit and get that part to pop off. Also, believe it or not, taking things apart, rocking them and wiggling them, in my business, we call it whirring them. So here's a single piece now. Same thing, I'm rocking it back and forth, but it's not moving. So very technical technique, whack it with a hammer. Okay, I'm going to move it back and forth, and then I'm going to just kind of put a little bit of a shim underneath here. In this case, it's that wonderful clam knife I'm so fond of. Lift it up a little bit and then back and forth. The manufacturer will put nails in places to hold them together while the glue dries. And here's one of those nails. And we have to get it out because if we don't, what it'll do is it'll break the spindle before it lets the spindle come out of the leg. Now we're going to use a little bit of a homemade tool. This is a roll pin that I've turned into a little bit of a drill bit. We have a video on how to make this. This is an excellent, helpful tool to make. I'll put the link in the end screen and then maybe in the comments below. But there you can see we've worked around the nail and worked out a little bit with a chisel. Now I'm coming back with my wire cutters and I'm going to just try to slowly lift it up. Now I'm going to slide my clam knife underneath so I don't dent the wood as I apply pressure down. That's very important that I don't make things worse for myself. And you can see the nail's moving slowly, but it's moving. And you got to try not to squeeze the nail, the wire cutters too hard, or you end up cutting the head of the nail and making things even harder to do. But here we go, we're getting it out, and eventually the spindle will move right along with it as the nail gets pulled through the wood that it's behind. So take your time with this. In real time, this is probably about a 10-minute operation. And there it is, it's out. Now I have to look at the back of the chair, and you can see I've labeled the chair with just pieces of tape and numbers so I know how it goes back together. Now, again, we're seeing nails. You can see the nail holes in the nail themselves in these parts that go across the ladder back. They're not as big as the nails that were in the stretcher on the bottom. These are more like 18 gauge or 21 gauge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this in a very sophisticated technique. I'm going to just rock this back and forth and try to loosen everything up so that the nails kind of will pull through for me. Now I'm putting it on its back, and I'm going to use my spreaders right here, and I'm going to work from the bottom upwards and just get it to pop all the way apart. I have the ladder back pulled apart, and now I've got these nails in the bottom. And what I'm going to just do is take my wire cutters here, and I'm going to pull them through to get them out. They're usually just kind of stuck in there, and you can just kind of twist them and pull them, and they'll just pop right out. Easy peasy. Now on the corner blocks, there's some staples left. I just cut them off flush with my Dremel, get them out of my way if I weren't able to pull them when I was doing breaking the chair down. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wire brush to clean up the finger joints. I got to get rid of the old glue so that the new glue can penetrate. You can sand it, you could file it, you could chisel it, whatever you want to do. I'm just scraping it up. None of this part of the chair is visible, and the rougher it is, the better the glue is going to adhere, as long as I don't change the shape. And you can see that's nice and clean in there now. And I'm also going to do the corner blocks themselves. Same technique. I have the wire brush on a little bit of an angle. It gets in there a little bit deep and does a great job at cleaning this all up for me. You do a lot of chairs, you're going to have a lot of corner blocks, you're going to have a lot of things to get done, so faster is better. Now, the inside of the dowel holes, I use a rotary rasp. This is a 3/8, I believe, which is the same size as the dowels. So I just pop it in my drill, and I just drill out every dowel hole with this. Now, you could use sandpaper and all sorts of different things. This is what I like to use, and it just goes in and out real quick. And what it'll do is it'll scrape out the old glue. Now here's a broken dowel. So how do we deal with those? We're going to have to cut it off with the Dremel and get it flush. We want to get a new dowel in there of the same size, but we got to get the old dowel out. Now I'm going to start drilling it out with a smaller drill bit. Okay, I believe this is 1/8 of an inch drill bit for a 3/8 inch dowel. And the reason why I start small is the drill bit tends to walk around, even if you use a center punch and all sorts of stuff. So what I want to do is just get the majority of the wood out of the way. And you're going to see I'm slowly just drill. I'm going to move this drill bit around inside and use the drill bit as like a tool to hog out the inside of that dowel. It all hogged out like that. I'm going to go up to a bigger size. Now I believe this is 1/4 inch for a 3/8 inch dowel. And this is going to get more of the material out of the way. And what I'm going to do is try not to make the hole bigger or oblong. So there you can see a little bit of wood around the perimeter that's left. It's very easy to clean up at this point. I'm just going to take my knife, reach it in there and give it a couple pops. And usually it will give up and break away from the side. And I'm not making the hole any larger than it should be. I'm not moving its position. It's going to stay right in that same spot. After I'm done with that, I'm going to come back with my rotary rasp. Now, wherever we had glue, we got to clean up. So all the ends of the pieces, this is a good trick. I just put a piece of self-adhesive sandpaper on a block and go back and forth. This is 80 grit, and that'll scratch it up, and it's end grain. You can sand it any direction you want. If a dowel's in the way, if not, you're back to your rotary rasp, you're back to your Dremel tool, you're back to your files. But somehow you got to get the old glue out of there so the new glue can adhere. So here I am just sanding this dowel just like that. I don't have to do too much, just scratch it up. And then I'm going to hit the end of it also. So wherever there was glue, get rid of it. Sand it, scrape it, scratch it, whatever it is, so the new glue can sink in there and adhere. The things I do on all my glue ups is I drill what I call relief holes in the dowel holes. And what this is a very thin drill bit that's going to go from the outside of the piece into the dowel hole. And what this is going to do is going to let air escape, and it's going to let glue escape, and it's going to let the piece go back together easily. If you have too much glue in there, it's going to push back. And you can see the drill bit coming through to the back of the hole there. Now, this is the chair dry fitted. I'm holding it together with just straps, but I dry fit everything before I go to glue up to make sure everything goes back together. Finally, we're going to start gluing this puppy back together. In glue ups like this, 90% of the work happens before you start to glue the chair back together. The better you prepare, the better you succeed. So take your time, dry fit things, make sure things work. Now, the amount of glue I put on is always excessive because I'd rather have too much than too little. And you can see me pushing this piece back together, and I'm going to get a ton of squeeze out there. But because I have those relief holes, you see how easily it goes together. the air isn't fighting me in the dowel holes. And I'm just going to take a wet rag here. I'm going to wipe it off, and I'd rather have too much glue than too little glue. And on the bottom, you could see the glue leaking out of those little relief holes. And you're not really going to lose any glue that you need in that area because it's not too important at the end of the dowel. But what you do get is the piece will slide back into itself. Now, if you're trying to push this in and you're not able to get it in because it's pushing back, then drill these holes. And you see right here the relief holes with the glue. Now we're putting on the other part, and we're going to go quick, and we're just lots of glue, put it together, lots more glue, put it together. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the straps to hold it temporarily, and then I'm going to add some clamps to really speed it up. Now you can see the clamps up top, and these aren't crazy strong clamps because I have the piece set up so it'll go together. And you can see me cleaning off my glue joints, and I always let it dry on a flat surface because it'll dry correctly on a nice flat surface. Sometimes I use my table saw. Now we have this spindle to deal with that's been broken. We do this in another video. So I'm going to put the link at the end of this video and in the section below on how to repair a broken stretcher. That's very important to know how to do. We don't quite have the time to do it here. One last picture. This is the chair all glued up and clamped. This is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Remember, every time we fix a piece, we keep it out of the landfill and we keep more trees from being cut down to make new ones. Those are all good things. If you have videos you want me to do, any questions, comments, want to call me a shoemaker, put it in the comments below. I definitely welcome the input. You all have a good day.